Hey everyone, it's me, Cadilac with Cadillac Law. I am an attorney in DFW. I practice primarily in real estate law, and therefore I am a litigating attorney. I'm in the courtroom quite often. Because I'm a nerd and I'm in the courtroom and I find it interesting, I follow cases. And today we're going to talk some more about the Sarah Boone case. Sarah Boone is wild. Absolutely wild. If you haven't been following, I had been going live every Wednesday at 2. Today I'm just releasing a 2-log video. As we lead up to Sarah's trial, which is set for October 7th. Now, a bunch of action went on last week that we will get into eventually. I'm not 100% sure the trial will still be October 7th. It seems that after Sarah lost her 8th or 9th attorney, which the next few weeks we'll go through that lawyer saga, oh my god. After she lost that attorney, she was going into court quite a few times, saying she was overwhelmed, I'm lost. She wrote some motions, whatever. Well, apparently there is a private attorney in Florida who is crazy enough to take her case. Who knows if she's able to pay for it? Who knows if he's doing it, for publicity or what? I saw another YouTuber go over his website and he is quite qualified. He's done second-degree murder felonies before, and so it seems she's found herself a good criminal defense attorney, which is really interesting. I have heard quite a few attorneys talking about this case because it is so wild and so bizarre. One of the attorneys I heard was like, if I was in Florida, I would totally go defend her. That attorney was like, I think she has BPD, which is borderline personality disorder, which is what I wanted to discuss today. So, if you're familiar with people who have borderline personality disorder, then you probably can see a lot of that in Sarah Boone. Personally, I have a sister who has BPD, and as I did the research for this video, I was surprised at the symptoms of BPD that my sister did not have. So, but she did have quite a few of them, and she has been diagnosed by a professional, and she is a very interesting person to get along with, to say the least. As is Sarah Boone. And Sarah Boone has written 58-page letters to the judge. She is adamant of her innocence even after seeing the videos of her laughing at her boyfriend who's asking her to get him out of the suitcase because he can't breathe. Laughing at him, telling him this is revenge for what he's done. That's how she feels. It's like, whoa. How do any of these things come to pass? How does a grown man end up in a suitcase? And how does, I don't know. So, some of you in the comments have given me theories that he was in the suitcase upstairs and that she rolled him down the stairs and then flopped him around a bit. And that does sound about right to me. He had bruises and lacerations on his face and head, and it does not make sense for him to have bruises and lacerations on his face and head otherwise. I believe, personally, the only reason that she's only being charged with second-degree murder is because she was incredibly intoxicated at the time of the murder. On the video, she's trashed. She's slurring her words. That's how it feels. She is trashed. And that's part of what drew me into her case to begin with. If you watch my videos, you know anything about me. I quit drinking alcohol about 5 years ago because I could see that it had a really negative net effect, and that when I was drinking, I would do things that I wouldn't normally do. So I cut that shit out. Anyhow, this case came to pass right before lockdown in 2020. So when I heard about it, it interested me because my original assumptions were that she was drunk, she went upstairs and she passed out. This is so unfortunate. Then I heard about the video, from her phone of him being locked in the suitcase, begging her to help him, begging for his life. And it's tragic. It's awful. It's awful. Now, her behavior that has followed is also pretty awful, but that is what is indicative of the BPD to me. Now, I am not a psychiatrist. I am not a psychologist. I am not trained in any of those things at all. I'm just an attorney who has some life experience. That's it. I did research about BPD because I find it to be so interesting, and I do have a sister who's affected by it. So I did this research. If you feel that you are having, you are dealing with BPD or someone you know, do not come to me. I'm not the place for the advice. You need to go see a professional. Now, I'm talking about this as it pertains to Sarah Boone in her case. That's it, okay? All right, so there are a bunch of symptoms of BPD, and what I found in my research is that a lot of them look like other mental health disorders. For instance, there is an impulsive and dangerous behavior element of BPD, and that typically involves self-medicating through alcohol and drugs. That impulsive behavior is also found in bipolar. When you're in a manic state of mind, they tend to be impulsive, they'll spend money and do those kind of things. So it is my understanding that only 1 to 2% of the US population is diagnosed with BPD. However, my research showed that about 6% actually have it. And I'm guessing it's called borderline personality disorder because the symptoms borderline so many different disorders that I imagine there's a lot of misdiagnosis. So the thing I found most interesting is the very first symptom always discussed when it comes to BPD is fear of abandonment. And that is something I personally have dealt with. I know my sister suffers from it. She's an identical twin. Our mother, was not nice and our father abandoned us. And, eventually her identical twin abandoned her. So I can see that. What these symptoms don't tell us though, is like how it looks to us as people who don't have BPD. So like as a sister, I saw my sister and I could see and observe her fear of abandonment. And I could see and observe that she made decisions based on that fear and in an effort to prevent abandonment. Unstable and intense relationships. Now, think about in Sarah Boone's case, one of her defenses she's discussed is like battered wife syndrome. She's not a wife, but battered girlfriend syndrome. We can assume that if your defense to killing your partner is that they abused you, I think we can assume without much risk of being incorrect that that is an intense and unstable relationship. The intensity also is heightened when you add alcohol, okay? So Sarah Boone, with her relationship with the victim, Jorge, that in and of itself is unstable and intense. I think we could guess and venture to say that if we talk to Sarah Boone's ex-husband, he would agree that their relationship had been unstable and intense. The next symptom of BPD is an unstable self-image or sense of self. We see that in Sarah Boone quite a bit. Okay, so Sarah Boone has this idea about her. She's brought it up several times where she says that she was a straight A student, that she did well in college. And so for some reason, she's saying those when it comes to like that she couldn't have killed Jorge, right? So some reason her self-image, her identity is that if I get good grades, I'm not capable of murder, which is a correlation that I think most reasonable minds are not going to make, right? Like I'm sure there are a bunch of people who got good grades in jail for murder. I think all kinds of people murder, so, okay. The next one, and I'm pretty sure we're seeing this in Sarah, is rapid mood changes. I feel like we could see this in Sarah, even just in her letter writing to the judge. That 58-page letter had changes in mood within it the way her handwriting looks in most letters, then the design she'll put. I mean, these are rapid changes just in her writing. She seems to grow a bit frustrated, but I will say the last few times I've seen her in court, she's really held herself together quite well. We talked about impulsive and dangerous behavior. Something I found interesting I wasn't aware of is that a large portion of people who have borderline personality disorder will end their own lives. It's strikingly large. And I find that to be interesting. That is definitely different than, someone who's in a manic state they're not gonna do that. But if they were depressed, then maybe they would think about those kind of things. The bipolar roller coaster includes that type of self-harm, but apparently it is really, really incredibly common in people with BPD. Another symptom is persistent feelings of emptiness. Okay, so that is, a feeling of really, I would assume, loneliness or, emptiness. I'm not sure that we see that as much with Sarah Boone. I don't think her behavior reflects that outwardly towards us. Anger management issues, though, is another symptom, and we do see that in Sarah Boone. Okay, she for sure has anger management issues, and we can see that in her letter writing to the judge. Just all the different fonts, all the different things she says, how irritated she is about the news media following her. Like, if she finds out about my channel following her, she is going to be so mad, right? It really upsets her, and she gets very angry at this large following. And then a final symptom that I found very, very interesting was temporary paranoid thoughts. When my research showed these thoughts can last for like 5 minutes to a couple hours, but they're temporary, so it's not like a lifelong of paranoia like someone maybe with paranoid schizophrenia would have. It's more of a temporary, like, ultra paranoid, almost like if you smoke like that. Okay. I also found out, I was out here doing the research stuff, that there are 4 types of BPD, which is interesting. There is the self-destructive BPD. That's the person that's gonna self-harming and self-abusing. There's the discouraged BPD, who is incredibly afraid of abandonment and has mood swings. There is the impulsive, which does the binging, the risky, the aggressive behavior. And then there's petulant, which is unpredictable mood swings, passive aggressiveness, and a need to feel in control. Who does that sound like? Who does that sound like? Our friend Sarah Boone. The need to be in control, the unpredictable mood swings, passive aggressiveness. I'll also say that this definitely sounds like my sister and a little bit me. I can be pretty passive aggressive. I don't mean to. I do mean to. Something that was really interesting that I found in my research is that there's really just no treatment for the borderline personality disorder. The person who has it, who's diagnosed, all they can do is pretty much just go to therapy and really work on themselves. And then probably I would say some hypnotherapy or something would maybe help. This was the statistics I found. 75% of the people with BPD will attempt to end their own lives. That is huge. That is a huge number. So, how does BPD happen? Well, in the case of my sister, she developed BPD because of her abusive and traumatic childhood. She was the one that my mom disliked the most. She was the one that our mother took her anger out on. She was always the top and primary suspect, and she was always the one getting really the brunt of the abuse. And so I think because of that and because of the trauma associated with what happened in our childhood, my sister developed BPD over time. Now, I don't know what happened to Sarah Boone. My research shows that it can be genetic, so maybe she genetically inherited it from her family. But I would be inclined to guess, particularly since she's claiming, and it has been quite documented, when we go through the lawyer saga, you'll learn that half the lawyers she lost because of a conflict. And those conflicts arose because of cases that her and Jorge had that resulted in crimes. They were DV cases that resulted in needing an attorney. 4 incidences. Okay, so to me, based off my life experience, those kind of things, she didn't just fall for an abusive guy yesterday. Like, it didn't just happen overnight. I'm guessing something happened in her childhood, something that was traumatic. Maybe there's some kind of abuse in her childhood, and that led to the BPD. So the thing with the BPD, though, I don't think Sarah can make this claim, is that she's mentally insane. Like, she is fit for trial. She has clear and concise conversations. She is aware of her surroundings. She's aware of what's going on. She might suffer from BPD, but she doesn't suffer to the point that she would not get a trial. And she doesn't suffer to the point that she could use insanity as a defense, because she left him in there. The video shows, yes, she was drunk, but she was not insane, right? She knows he wanted out of that suitcase, and she chose not to take him out. Like, a pretty open and shut, cut and dry type of case, if you ask me. So the fact that she truly believes in her heart that this is not cut, open, shut, case closed type of case, tells me that she really, really, truly is off up here. And her behavior just seems so much like my sister. Just that deep, deep, deep anger, the switch of a button, the always on the defense, the identity issues, all of those things that Sarah Boone suffers from, my sister most certainly suffers from. And I'm assuming quite a few other people in the United States are suffering from. And I say suffering because it is suffering. To have to live that way cannot be fun. It must be a nightmare to have your brain in so much dysfunction. I've been very depressed in my life before, and when I felt that way, my brain was not the way it is now. Like, it didn't fire on all cylinders. There's just this fog, almost like a black and whiteness about my brain. And now, I see things in color. My brain is in color again, and the fog is lifted. So these folks, like Sarah Boone, I would venture to say, are probably deep in a serious fog, and it's probably pretty damn miserable. I do feel for people who are suffering this way. Do I think she murdered that guy? Yes. Do I think she should go to jail? Yes. Do the videos tell us she was aware? Also yes. Okay. However, I understand mental suffering, and I can empathize for people who are going through that as well. And I can empathize, like, Jorge's family. This is terrible. It is terrible. I cannot imagine receiving a call about my son that, he passed away in a suitcase because his girlfriend wouldn't unzip it. I mean, I couldn't imagine. I don't want to imagine. And I feel for his family. I feel for all of them. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for joining me. This is a special day about BPD because I do believe it greatly affects Sarah Boone. So the next few weeks, we're going to go through the lawyer saga. We'll go through each lawyer and what happened with each of them. Then we will get to pretrial hearings on September 25th. And October 2nd, we'll go over that 58-page letter, although all of that might change now that she has this new lawyer. If he gets a continuance, blah, 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 I'll keep you posted. Thank you for being here. Make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe, and I will see you again next week.